Clara Scott back in 1895. And Clara had a plan with this song. The plan was tied into the words and the tune, and she wrote both. And the tune, you really have to see it to understand it. And here's why I don't quit my day job, but you know the dance, okay? Open my eyes that I may see. Clara Scott wrote that tune as a dance. People didn't dance to it, but she wanted people to feel a bit of the dance, to understand that living with God is being led by God like in a dance. We aren't the lead dancers. Open my ears that I may hear truth. Open my mouth that I may speak. Clara wanted us to understand that it was important to be led by God. And it's very important to think of her words today, the words we just sang, as we come to Saul. Saul tried to dance, and he was trying to lead, and frankly, he fell down. And he had trouble getting up, and whether he hit his head or whatever, he was blind. Not only could he not dance being led by God, he couldn't see. And so Saul needed some help in changing who he was. He was the one, if you've heard of Stephen ministry, you probably have by now, he was the one who spotted Stephen, who understood Stephen was following the way and doing what Jesus would have him do. And so he said, Stephen needs to be put to death. He said, I'll hold your coats, stone the man. And so Stephen becomes the first martyr we know in the Bible, who is stoned for his faith. And Saul was standing there holding the coats and hanging them on. Very out of step with God. So Saul's blinded. He needs to see again. He needs to figure out what's going on. He needs to sort through this experience he had where he feels like he heard this Jesus whose followers he are persecuting. He feels like he's heard that Jesus speak to him, and he doesn't quite know what to do with it. Meanwhile, there is this man named Ananias. And Ananias knows who Saul is. And Ananias hears the word, you need to go to Saul. Because Saul has had a dream that a man named Ananias came and gave him his sight back. And Ananias, open my ears that I may hear. He's having a hard time hearing what's being said to him. He does not want to go open his mouth and say anything about who he is to Saul. Saul may be blind, or it may be a trap, or it may not matter because Saul has a history. So we have these two people struggling to see where God is leading, struggling to hear God's leading, struggling to speak God's leading. And that's not uncommon. You probably saw in the news this fellow, Tom Stoley. Tom Stoley's 19 years old. Tom Stoley's from Duluth. He went to the University of Minnesota, is going there. He's 19 years old. And he was walking one day. And he saw a woman on a bridge. And he saw there was something wrong. There were other people who were walking along too. He saw there was something wrong. And he asked her if everything was okay. And she told him to stay back. He started a conversation. He saw something was wrong, he heard something was wrong, and he began to speak. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to ask. He kept the woman engaged for 20 to 25 minutes in a conversation. Other people went by. They did not stop. Either they did not see, or they did not hear, how they could not, or they didn't want to get involved. Because what do when you see someone standing about 9 feet back from another person who's standing on a bridge with one foot on one side of the rail and the other foot on the other side of the rail? No one else stopped. There was a couple, an elderly couple, coming along who paused and slowly was able to say, they wanted to alert the woman. Just whispered the word help. And they paused long enough to get it. They called campus police, and campus police started on their way. Slowly, during this conversation, kind of assessed the woman to weigh about 130 pounds. He knew he was about 100 pounds more than her in weight. And so he took that into account as she put her other leg over the rail and now was both legs on the riverside. And as she began to let herself fall, he was a football player. He was able to move really fast and catch her. And that was as campus police were getting there as well. If we have trouble seeing what's going on externally with people when they're giving us really big clues like standing on a bridge with a leg on each side of the rails, if we have trouble seeing that, how much more trouble do we have seeing the inside stuff that's going on with people? And the internal needs, and the hurts, and the wounds, and the aches, and the longings that God is calling us to see. If we're going to have our eyes opened, it needs to be from the Spirit. If we're going to have our ears opened, it needs to be from the Spirit. And it needs to be rooted in praying that the Spirit will open our eyes and our ears to see these things. We need people to be involved in the teaching. We need to make a transition as we grow from thinking of our giving as a way, well, we come here, what do we get out of church? How do we keep things functioning for ourselves? From that model to a mission model, where we come to church and we see that there are new faces and we wonder, how can we reach out? How can we make a difference in their lives? How can we make a difference in the lives of people who aren't here yet? And where is God calling us to give more of ourselves and make those transformational experiences or those saving grace experiences happen within our congregation? And they are happening. They are happening. Lives are being touched. One of the cardboard testimonies, I keep going back to the cardboard testimonies of Easter Sunday morning, but they were so wonderful. One of the Easter signs, one of the kids wrote, "We're going to church now, and I'm seeing my mom is happy." And wasn't it, mom's happy we're going to church now? It's, I see my mom is happy. Something's changed in her life as she comes to church too. And it's good, and I can see it as a kid. Wonderful. But we need to be able to sustain that and maintain that and grow that. The last part of that hymn. Open my heart and let me prepare. Love with thy children thus to share. Is to ask God to open your heart. For all of us, to ask God to open our hearts so that we can see the needs that aren't so obvious, the needs that are hidden inside of people. And so that we can trust the Spirit to give us the words, even if those words feel inadequate, the words that will encourage, the words that will provide a glimmer of hope, the words that will sometimes just help someone hold on until that hope finally dawns within their own hearts. Silently now I wait for thee, ready my spirit I will to say. Will you wait for God to speak into your hearts? Will you, with Paul and Ananias, be willing to even maybe make a 180-degree turn? Sometimes God calls us to make complete transformations in our lives. Or you say to others, listen where God might